Welcome back to the Herald-Tribune SNN Conversation with the Candidates. This segment features the two candidates for Sarasota County School Board District 4. And with me are Shirley Brown, the incumbent, and her challenger, Helen Wolf. Now, they are running in the nonpartisan primary that ends August 26. Candidates for this four-year office must live in their district, but voting is countywide. Let's just get right to the question, and thanks for joining us. We'll start kind of with a three-parter. Sarasota County is one of the few counties in Florida with a voter-approved one-meal tax that provides extra funding for local schools. So, did you, 1, vote in the March referendum on whether to continue the tax? 2, if so, how did you vote? And 3, why? Did you vote? How did you vote? Why? Shirley Brown, we'll start with you.
I did vote, and I voted yes. And I voted because I think that it should be up to the local school district to decide how much funds they can raise for their schools. It started back when I was in the legislature. It was one of the issues I ran for, was when the legislature capped the discretionary millage. This is one way where it gives the discretion back to the school district, and I support that.
Okay. Helen?
I did vote in the special election. I voted yes the first two referenda. I voted no this time because I do not support, while I do support the monies that are being spent in our schools, I do not support special elections for the fourth time, and I do believe these should be held during the regular cycle of elections, probably by before the referendum is expired, and so as to avoid a lapse in funding.
Okay. Shirley, you are the incumbent, so it's quite simple. Why do you believe you should be reelected?
Well, I think I should be reelected because we are running our schools very efficiently, very high-quality schools, and we continue to make improvements. When we have an A-rated district, this is the 10th year in a row now, despite the budget cuts, and despite some of the struggles that we've gone through, we still have high staff morale, and we also have a lot of respect and support from our community. And I think that bodes well for how the district is running. And you know, one of the things I wanted to bring to the district in 2006 was leadership and experience. I think I've done that.
All right. Helen, since you're the challenger, and I'm asking all the other challengers kind of a two-part question at the beginning, and then we'll give you a shot. Before filing for this office, had you ever attended a school board meeting in Sarasota County?
I have attended many school board meetings in the past, and I did.
Okay. Have you ever been a member of a policy-making board, and if so, the board and your role?
I have not.
Okay.
I have not.
All right. So the question for you is, why do you think that you should be elected?
Well, I have been very active in the current legislation, trying to address the issue in the new standards, making them better, adding cursive writing and adding several things. And also I have been able to petition legislators to address the privacy issue of our students, as well as having the recognition of the legislature that the local district has control over curriculum and should have a process in place for parental input over course materials.
Okay.
So.
And let's stop on that question. Do you believe that the legislature exerts too much control over curriculum, value assessments, and all the various things? And so we'll start with you.
Definitely, I feel there is an overreach, which is really making it very difficult. The Sarasota is an A-rated district, and it becomes very difficult with all the regulations, especially for the teacher evaluations, the student achievements, and it becomes very difficult. Yes, I do believe that the control should be local over our schools.
All right. Shirley, how would you respond?
I understand why the legislature wanted some of that control and wanted reports to the public how well our schools are doing. But what the overreach, this high stakes testing that they're doing, is never what these tests were designed to do. They were designed to be diagnostic for the teachers, to understand where the students needed help, not to be fixing teacher salaries on them. and talk about the overreach. Even that thing about keeping privacies. I mean, there were a lot of schools that were using some thumbprints for the children to go through the lunch lines. Now we can't do that anymore, and there's school districts that had that can't do it. It's another example of the legislature telling school districts what they can do.
Okay. If you could, if you had legislators right here with us, and you had a chance to ask them to do something, to not do something, to pull back on something, what would that be?
I think it's the siphoning of funds from the public schools. I think the Senate Bill 850 that they passed this year with the corporate scholarships, extending those to students who have never even attended a public school. Students who attend a private school with a family income of up to $60,000 will now get these corporate scholarships. And the homeschooling scholarships and the McKay scholarships, there's just too many scholarships dollars that are coming out of public schools. Hold off on that and pull back on these tests.
All right, Helen, for you, what would you ask them to do, not do, pull back on?
I would definitely ask them to discontinue the current state standards because, and also the assessment, because they have not been proven to effectively evaluate teachers, do not measure student achievement, have not been field tested sufficiently, and also the standards have not been validated by top educators in their fields in English and math. So definitely I would ask to please discontinue the current state standards and the assessment.
Okay. One of the questions I was going to ask you both was about the Florida standards and the Florida standards assessment. So I will ask you, Shirley, directly. What is your view of the standards and the assessments, and then we'll give Helen a follow-up.
We've had state standards for some time. I remember, when Lawton Childs, it was Blueprint 2000, then it was A+, and then it was the Florida state standards. So there's always been standards. What we're looking at now is an issue that came because of the race to the top and the No Child Left Behind. When they started comparing states to states, it was apples to oranges. So they wanted some fair assessments. The other issue on having some standards that kind of work across the board is for students. If a student is moving from, say, Wisconsin down to Florida, they should have sort of a level playing field. I went to 12 different grammar schools through 8th grade, and I ended up in a school doing division before I learned multiplication. So there's some idea for that. Is the assessments going to be another question?
Yes.
All right. I'll let it go at that then.
Oh. Okay, on the assessment, I was going to say that definitely we should not be teaching to the test, and it is because the high-stakes testing that teachers, are doing that, and that is not education. That is actually training. So.
Okay, Shirley, on the assessments.
On the assessments, again, I think it's too high stakes. My daughter's a teacher. I know she's doing some teaching, some exciting teaching that they're doing now. That before we weren't seeing. I mean, when we're teaching language arts, we're teaching kindergartners nouns, verbs, and adjectives. The kids are enjoying it. They're excited about learning. That they have this rich vocabulary. That's good. The high stakes testing is what is wrong. And when they put so much pressure on saying that we have to judge teachers' salary on it, that's where we've gone too far, because there isn't any proof that shows the one leads to the other. Understand why they're doing it, but I don't think this is the way to do it.
Okay, so that leads to the next question. Another mandate. The state says that districts have to implement performance pay for teachers in particular. So let's focus on teachers in particular. Shirley, how do you think the district should approach the performance pay?
I think it's not all bad. We have principals going into classrooms now, evaluating how teachers are doing, making sure that teachers are following through. Problem is sometimes when you've got, some principals that might like a teacher or know a teacher better, they feel that there's some preferences given to certain teachers, but the testing scores on it when they don't know what it is, and when you have a teacher that is an art, being judged on what they're doing in math, that doesn't make any sense at all. So we're looking at doing something a little more even across the board on that.
Okay, Helen, how would you approach implementing?
I believe that teachers should be evaluated on performance, not on the performance of their students, but on the achievement of their students, and therefore I do believe that that should be spanning over several years and not just be determined during one test. And I believe also that to help determine the achievement of the student, we could use aptitude tests per subject so that we can see the progress on the student achievement versus student
Yeah, you know, we're looking at end-of-course exams, especially in high school, but they're telling us each district we have to come up with our own. That's expensive. But, and I think some of this came out of the No Child Left Behind, a good idea. We have teachers now looking at the scores, the assessments, that it's not just the FCAT, there's other tests. And I know they look to see how well their child, each child in their class has improved, and they try to make sure that every child is learning at least a year's worth. I mean, there were times, and I know teachers just let some kids sit at the back of the classroom. That's not allowed anymore. So I wouldn't throw it all out. I think there's some good things coming along with that. It's just too high stakes.
Okay, let's broaden the lens a little bit, and I'll ask Helen first and then Shirley to just assess the overall performance of the Sarasota County School District.
Well, Sarasota County School District has had an A rating consistently, is very good, and I believe that is the result of the teamwork of the superintendent, the board, the administration, and the excellent teachers we're having. I want to keep it that way and even make it better. Regardless of the many changes that are coming now. I'm very passionate about Sarasota, and the schools are great, and I'm really excited that we can keep it that. I hope we can keep it that way.
All right, thank you. Shirley, assessment?
I think a lot of people know we've got an A-rated district, but what they don't know is how well we're doing on our budget. Our capital budget, we have been able to, and I think it was a little bold step that we did when the economy started going down. We went out and we took advantage of low-cost bonding that allowed us to buy into and renew in our schools, rebuild and refurbish some of our schools at the lowest construction costs that had been seen in years. I mean, they dropped from $240 to $120. SCTI, we were looking at $75 million, $150 million. We got it done for about $75, $78 million. We saved the districts hundreds of millions of dollars in construction costs. I think we get an A in that one, too.
Okay. Speaking of grades, let's give the superintendent the grade, A, B, C, D, F? Yeah, right.
We just graded her highly effective because, you know, I think the 77% approval rating that the district gave her on the referendum shows she's highly effective.
Okay. Helen, ABC?
I'm not going to go ABC. I'm going to say she has been shown excellent leadership, and she has been very effective communicating with the different departments and also the board. And she has been implementing recommendations from our 2012 MGT report and has saved the district money. So I would say very effective.
Okay, very good. In the interest of time, a 30-minute closing statement from each. I mean, 30 minutes.
Thank you.
30-second close from each of you, and we'll start with B, Shirley Brown.
Okay. I first ran for this office in 2006 because at the time our district was having a problem. We were having revolving doors of superintendents. I voted for Lori White for superintendent. She was a product of our schools. She taught in our schools, and she was a good educator in our schools. I think she has brought the leadership we need. She's brought the stability that we need, and I think we need to continue on that path of leadership and stability and getting the staff morale up and the community support.
All right, Helen?
Well, we are definitely entering in untested water in terms of the new assessments and the new Florida standards. I would hope, with my experience, that I would be a voice for parents, teachers, and the community to address these challenges that I anticipate to be coming since, you know, I do not support the current standards, but I will be a voice there. And if elected, I will work to restore local control, at least of the curriculum, which has been legislated this year. Thank you.
All right, thank you. We're out of time, but thank you to both candidates. And we'll be right back with candidates for District 5.